Hey folks, in this video I want to talk to you about third-party lenses for your baby medium format cameras, specifically the Fuji GFXs and the Hasselblad system. Today I'm talking about the Hasselblad X2D in particular. Now, my most enjoyed lens or most used lens so far on this camera is actually this little guy, the Leica Summilux 35mm f1.4. I use it on an overflex adapter that goes from M mount to the Hasselblad X mount, and it works great. Now you can see just how tiny this guy is. It is incredibly expensive. I wouldn't buy it just for this camera, but I already own the lens. Now, being that it's a full frame sensor lens, it doesn't give 100% coverage. You have some vignetting in the corners, but with 100 megapixels, I don't worry about that too much. Having a look at the range of lenses out there, it's really startling just how big they get. When this body is just so ergonomic and so chic and so beautifully designed, the Leica lens just pairs with it in every way. Aesthetically, optically, it's just working great, or of course without autofocus. And as I've talked about in previous videos, the faster readout on this camera means you can switch to electronic shutter and get pretty reasonable results, amazing in-body image stabilization as well. Today I want to test out this guy. So this is the Zhongyi Midagong Speedmaster 65mm f1.4. Now I have to say, as well as being quite big, it's really heavy actually. They have an 85-1.2 that's available in native Fujifilm GFX mount, and it's no more expensive than this one, so hopefully the optics on this one are really right up there. And when I say it's big and heavy, you know, it is a medium format lens, so that's kind of to be expected. But if you actually compare this to like Hasselblad's own 65mm lens, that's significantly lighter than this one. But this is actually more complex in terms of number of lenses and elements. It does have quite a nice build quality, but I just wanted to give you a little bit of context in terms of size. So you can see the difference there compared to the Leica 35-1.4. This is a lens that a lot of people would be quite familiar with. This is the TT Artisan 50mm. Oh, and that's great. My focus ring on this one has become detached. That's a bit of a testament to the quality of some of these third-party lenses. That's no good. That is the 50mm 0.95, and that basically is the same size as a Leica Noctilux. When you add the crop factor of this big guy, it actually becomes about a 52mm f1.1, so actually slower than this one, but significantly bigger. It is, of course, giving you full coverage, so all of the lens elements need to be that much bigger. And if you compare it to something like my 35-75 zoom, this is huge and heavy and like quite ridiculous on the camera. But you see them side by side, and this prime actually isn't saving that much size or weight, to be fair. But you are saving a whole hell of a lot in terms of your price. So today we're going to keep this nice and simple. I'll probably get some still life as well, but I'm pretty much going to be doing some portraits on the street around the bird market and the flower market here in Hong Kong with model Honey. And I'm going to give you a whole bunch of sample files you can download. Let's hit it. Well, let's just jump straight into the portrait section. Honey and I met up at a park that was right beside the bird and flower market in Hong Kong. Shot away for a little while, and I'm going to start out with the good results. Here's a few different portraits that I think are coming up beautifully in the natural shaded light, where the color science of the Hasselblad and the lens are working together beautifully. Next up, being a bird market, there was all kinds of wild birds around as well, and when they were staying really still, not flying, not getting spooked by me, I was able to get some shots of them as well. Nice detail through the feathers. It is really difficult to nail focus wide open on this lens though, even on a static subject. You'll notice on this image pretty bad chromatic aberrations, And that's just the start of it. Here, stopping down, it kind of goes away, but there's a lot of issues shooting with this kind of lens. Looking at this bird that was in artificial lighting, you just can't help but get this banding in your shots. The Hasselblad doesn't have a mechanical shutter, so you're relying on electronic shutter. In natural light, it's fine, but here you're going to get that kind of effect. And on shots like these ones, where it's partially in natural light, partially in artificial light, you can get banding just, for example, in your backgrounds. If we jump out and take a look at some of the flowers and stuff from the nearby market, it's kind of hit and miss with this lens, whether you're getting beautiful color from it or not. The Hasselblad and its native lenses delivers, I think, the best color of any combination that I've ever used, but it is a little bit hit and miss when you're using this third-party lens. Jumping back to portraits again, yes, on a static subject, you take a couple of shots, you can get really nice usable images, especially thanks to the X2D having such great in-body image stabilization, but you're still going to get a fair number of shots that are warped. Taking a look at these examples, some of them it's really subtle, but looking at them in a series, you can really notice it. Others, it's extremely obvious. And in some, it's just applied to certain parts of the frame, like the bottom sections. If you're in the Hasselblad X system, do yourself a favor and check out my expert setup guide. It runs you through the X2D in all of its detail, every menu option, and it's an evolving document that as new firmware comes out and new features are added, I update the guide to show you how these different features work and how to get the most out of them for your style of shooting. Link for that and sample files from today's video are in the description below. Okay folks, so it's actually a couple of weeks later. I've just come back from a US road trip with the Hasselblad system. I shot with all different lenses, including, manual third-party lenses and native lenses. And look, I don't like to be the bearer of bad news because even though this is a premium price system, everyone loves a bargain. But I have to say, I think for most applications, if you're a Hasselblad shooter, I wouldn't recommend using this or actually any third-party lens.
Fatality.
It's really disappointing. And in this case, I think the Fujifilm system, if using third-party lenses is important to you, is actually a better system because they have the mechanical shutter and you can get more reliably accurate images. A couple of quick things to mention here. If you're going to do this, switch to 14-bit RAWs. The file sizes surprisingly actually come out to be the same size because it still uses a 16-bit bin, but the readout time is twice as fast on the sensor, so you're less likely to get warping coming into your images. Unless you're shooting on a tripod and a completely static subject, if it's important work, I don't think, the reliability is there. It is better than the X1D and Mark II with the in-body image stabilization and the faster readout that this sensor has anyway. But I realized going through the images, a lot of my Summilux shots do also have warping in them, but I just don't tend to shoot people. It tends to be landscapes or cityscapes, and a little bit of warping isn't so noticeable. But if you want reliable shots, you really need to have some kind of a mechanical shutter going on. An exception to that is what I'm filming on, the Nikon Z9, which doesn't have any kind of mechanical shutter, but the sensor readout is fast enough. I will include in the sample files some shots that I've taken with other manual focus lenses so you can, get a sense of them. Sometimes when everything works out, nothing moves, you don't get any warping, you can get beautiful results. So it's not impossible. I would just say if it's really important work, you're going to want to take several shots just to make sure. And as you saw in some of those samples there with Honey, sometimes a shot that looks fine, actually when you look at the one before and after, you realize there is a little bit of warping going on, then it can be hard to tell which is the correct one and you start to question everything. Let me know your thoughts on that, and please also let me know your thoughts on the editing style of this video. I mixed it up a little bit to try and keep things fresh. If you have any questions on this lens or on the X system in general, please let me know below. You can check out the setup guide as well. The link for that is below with the link to the sample files. Cheers guys, I'll see you soon.